Hi, guys. I am so excited to introduce you to a very good friend and colleague of mine, Maude. Oh my gosh, Maude, I know we're talking about your favorite subject, nutrition.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining in today.
Thanks for
Um,
having me.
the topic of today is going to be nutrition during pregnancy, which is really important.
Yes, absolutely.
Before we get started, though, can you tell me a little bit about yourself? Tell us a little bit about Maude.
Yeah, of course. So I'm a pediatric registered dietitian. I love all things nutrition. Like you said, it's probably my favorite topic. And I really help and support parents during pregnancy, even before, after pregnancy, and then as they embark on feeding their little ones until, they leave the nest. So really like different phases, different, concerns and making sure that they are feeling good about themselves as parents and obviously that they're nourishing themselves and their family to the best that they can. So I do that through my private practice, which is an online service where we support parents. And I also teach at the college and university level and do some research so that we make sure that parents are really well supported.
Now, you have a very high level of education when it comes to nutrition.
Yeah, I do. So I've completed my PhD in maternal nutrition. So that was at McMaster University. I'm now a postdoc fellow at the University of Guelph, again in the area of nutrition and feeding families. So yes, I do love research, love learning, and also teaching, which I can do for students, future dietitians, and also obviously parents. Yeah.
That's what makes me so excited to bring you on today because I'm so proud that have my own village, and you're one of the specialists that I refer all of our clients to when it comes to anything nutrition. So I'm really excited to be able to pass you on to all these new and expecting parents. And what's really unique about you is that you and your husband actually do this together.
Yeah, yeah. Because yeah, I'm sure you can relate, and I'm sure that like listeners can relate as well, is we're never doing this alone. It can be with, that you said the village, but also caregivers, partners, be your husband or any partner or significant other that is going to be important in your child's life. And in my case, my family with my husband, we kind of found that, fathers were not really often included. Sometimes it was hard to like really like parent together and kind of learn while doing it. So we decided to really join forces. My husband is also a nutrition expert. So we were really hoping to kind of help parents as they are learning to co parent, involving fathers, making sure that there's room for them and that they can have also like resources that are like um, made for them, right? Not just like moms talking to them, really fathers talking to them and kind of being more inclusive as well for 2021. So
That's
we've done
great.
this together and keep on doing that together.
That's right. So, for all the fathers and all the partners out there, you have a company that really can reach out to all those demographics. So that's
Yeah.
incredible in itself. So that's awesome. So today our topic is going to be nutrition during pregnancy, which is
Yeah.
another really important topic that people don't think about. We always think about once the baby comes. We never really think about prenatally. So, give me a couple of things that you've heard from parents, in your career, some problems or some common concerns that they may have had during their pregnancy in terms of nutrition.
Yeah. And you said it well, right? We kind of like forget about pregnancy. We're just like so like on the birth and like babies arriving. And obviously that's important and exciting. But I see a lot of like pregnant people who are experiencing symptoms and discomfort and just assume that's normal and that they just need to suffer through because that's pregnancy. When really we could probably with nutrition and other obviously intervention that's outside my scope, but I like actually make their life easier. So, like in terms of nutrition, like anything like reflux, constipation, nausea, or lack of appetite, or you're like, oh, like everything kind of like gross me out. I don't know what to eat. I'm like feeling so low on energy. I'm so tired, but I'm pregnant, and it's like, yes, some of those are obviously pregnancy and it's demanding, but some of them could also be like improved with nutrition and never like something that extreme. So some small changes could actually really improve their quality of life. And I just kind of like wish everyone knew so that they wouldn't suffer and say like, oh, it's pregnancy, I'll just be like miserable for 9 months. So I think
Yeah,
that's what I see the most, and maybe something that people hopefully can learn and be like, oh, okay, maybe I should ask for help, and maybe that could help me like enjoy pregnancy a bit more if something that resonate with you. Some days
that's
are going to be
great.
hard, right? That's still like not magical, but yeah, like some of these symptoms can actually be improved quite easily with nutrition.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. Well, there's definitely been light shed over the years on how nutrition affects our bodies, even when we're not pregnant,
Yeah.
and how they can help and support our healing and our healthy lifestyle. So the fact that now your body is growing another human, it's so much more important to make sure that you're watching what we're eating and we're not just living off of burgers and fries, right? Which sometimes
Yeah.
is okay, but not something we
Yeah.
want to be doing every single day, right?
And it's really looking at like what makes you feel good, right? Good in your body. And then sometimes that's it. It's the burger and you enjoy and it's a nice outing and it's nice. But like sometimes that's it. You're like, oh my God, I'm like low on energy. I'm not feeling good. I'm not sleeping well. Well, then maybe we could look at nutrition, and that's it. Make sure you're nourishing yourself. And we always focus on baby and the baby is doing well and the baby is growing well, but also like the parent. You're preparing for birth, you're preparing perhaps for breastfeeding or chest feeding, or just you're pregnant, and making sure that you also nourish yourself and not just the baby. Obviously the baby is always important, but kind of getting into that habit that you not forget yourself because you're becoming a parent. And I think that's hard. That's really hard because we want the best for our kids, but I think it's something that we need to practice, and it starts during pregnancy.
Good. I think in the last 5 years, there's been this flip about self-care in
Yeah.
general. So the fact that we're reminding moms, you really have to self-care because you are growing this body and this little baby. And if you're not taking care of yourself during pregnancy, then that can definitely
Yeah.
make everything so much harder.
Yeah.
So is there an increase of calories that parents need to consider when they are pregnant?
So, like, if we think about biology, yes. But as I always say to my clients and to families, I really want them to be like having practical tips, right? I don't want them to start counting and cutting, and like that becomes very like math oriented and takes off all the fun from eating. So I really want to make sure that they nourish themselves, that yes, if they have specific concerns or like, health conditions, that we obviously take care of those. But other than that, like, really reconnecting with your body, because that's your best guide, and really following your appetite and hunger and when you're full or not is going to be your best guide. And that's true during pregnancy, but also after. So really that's usually what I say, having a structure can help, and then really listening and practicing that, because it's so hard these days to not have a screen or like just tuning in. We're not used to that, but and we teach that to babies, right? Like babies are born, they know how to eat, how much to eat. So really like the same applies to adults. So kind of reconnecting is a good exercise to do. Obviously in some cases we need to be a bit more strict or a bit more like cognizant of what we eat and how much calories or how much portions or whatever. Like if we have a different, maybe like gestational diabetes, or if you're not gaining enough weight and your healthcare practitioner teams are concerned. But other than that, I don't suggest counting calories, just because it's not fun. It's not fun. And really like, just enjoy your food once you're full, stop, and just, that's going to be also the best thing you're going to pass on to your kids. Again, kind of thinking down the road when we want to prevent picky eating, or even introducing solids, topics that are obviously important later down, but just kind of getting used to that. And that can also be helpful for like partners to kind of join in and doing that as a family.
That's great advice. It goes with the trying not to worry so much about the numbers, even when you have someone who's weighing themselves every day on the scale and
Yeah.
panicking and freaking out and measuring their food. So
Yeah.
that's some really good advice, is to sort of have a good relationship with our food as
Yeah.
opposed to micromanaging it all the time. I'm going to put you on the hot spot because in my personal, I find that a lot of clients or a lot of new parents who are pregnant, most of them worry about gaining weight.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, my two pregnancies were very unique or
Yeah.
different, or I think, anyways. Both pregnancies, I was pregnant the first time with a single, second time with twins. Both pregnancies, I was sick, throwing up a lot. So I had incredible nausea. I lost about 20 pounds in each pregnancy. So what I weighed at the end of my pregnancy was less than when I started. So I wish I would have known you 22 years ago, but maybe we can give some advice to some of those parents who are experiencing nausea during their pregnancy, whether it's at the beginning or throughout the
Yeah.
whole thing. Some tips of what types of foods could they eat so that they are getting the nutrition that they might need, but also accommodating the fact that things or smells might be making them feel sick.
Yeah. So yeah, and that's a loaded topic. So first of all, like, light nausea is probably going to be experienced by most pregnant people. So just knowing that it's normal can sometimes be reassuring. It's not making it easier, but just knowing that, maybe you expect that, and when it comes, you're prepared. But like what you're describing, or like really like very heavy nausea where you're having trouble gaining weight, or again, like talk to your healthcare practitioner, because we want to make sure that that's taking under like control if that's a problem. That's more serious. But for just, I don't want to say light nausea, because nausea is nausea, but something that, is just typical of pregnancy, having a structured kind of meal and snack routine will be helpful. And these are guidelines. So again, like you'll have to experience, get support, again, get in touch with me if you need more help, because we need to individualize. But as a kind of rule of thumb, having a structure, a routine where you have smaller meals throughout the day can be helpful. So maybe for you, it's eating 8 times a day versus, 3 full meal and some snacks. Or maybe you're the opposite, and for you, like eating less often is better. So again, kind of finding what makes you tolerate better the symptoms. Then anything that is a bit on the blender side can be well tolerated, so that it smells less and also sometimes tastes less, so that you're not kind of like triggered by strong smell or spicy food or these type of things. And again, some people, it's coffee, others it's like there's everything is possible, again, which perhaps is good to know, that what triggers you might be very like the favorite food of your other pregnant parent that you're like being pregnant with. But I think it's very different. But knowing that it's summer, so cold food definitely are better tolerated usually than warm or hot meals, so that's something to keep in mind. Sometimes liquid form, so like smoothies, if you do tolerate hot things, soups, but even cold soups or lukewarm soups could be a good option. Again, then we would have to make sure that these are nourishing, right? I just don't want you to just rely on chicken broth. That's not very nutrient packed, definitely not enough for pregnancy. So again, kind of making sure that we can optimize the food that you tolerate, but starting with that, and then really like sometimes even just jotting down like what you tolerate and what you don't, that can be helpful. But also sometimes it's like changes on a daily basis. If not, from morning to night, you're like, yeah, no, can't do this food anymore, which again is very typical. So perhaps again, managing expectation is the best advice, and then getting support so that you make sure that you feel nourished, you feel like you have energy, and you're not concerned that baby's not getting the nutrients they need.
That's such great advice. I remember driving to work when I was pregnant with my first, and every morning on the highway, I had my bag that I was going to throw up in because I felt sick every day driving to work. And I lived on saltine crackers. It was one of the things that I could stomach. So it's good to know that there's different options. And great tip about the cool foods, because we don't think sometimes that even just the temperature of something can make a difference on how we tolerate it.
Yeah, and even like, smoothies are a good example, because they can be packed with nutrients and be flavored in different ways. And sometimes, even just using a straw versus drinking from the cup can help, like not being so close to the food and not feeling the smell so strong. So those kind of tips can be helpful as well.
That's great. Well, speaking of tips, I'm going to ask you for a few right now. So can you give us a few tips of nutrition during pregnancy?
Yeah. So I think my biggest one would be drink water. I know it's boring. But summer is here. But that's true like all year round. You need water. We tend to forget to drink. We tend to forget about ourselves when we're pregnant. So drinking water is my first one. So get in the habit of getting a bottle of water with yourself. Don't go crazy. Don't measure your water, but just make sure that you have it when you're thirsty.
Okay. And does it matter, before we go into the second one, does it matter
Yeah.
if it's has carbon in it? Does it matter if it's flavored water, or do those things really make a difference? Or do you want just plain white, clear water from the tap?
I would say, it doesn't really matter. I want you to be hydrated. I want you to enjoy it, jazz it up, change it up. Plain water, that's fine. Sometimes carbonated water. Yeah, like whatever drinks you enjoy. But just having something with you so that you don't go throughout the day and realize, did I drink water today? No, I did not. Because then no wonder you're not feeling good, right? So
right.
I wouldn't worry too much. But obviously, if you have some concerns, again, I would suggest you just reach out to me. We can make sure that whatever you choose, or whatever, like, if sometimes I feel we have like cravings during pregnancy, like I really want this specific water, specific flavor, and nothing else. So we can make sure that that's safe for you and that's okay within your dietary.
Amazing. So drink water, number one, which should be a number one rule, regardless of pregnancy
Right?
or not. Number two,
I'd say probably a routine. So again, I'm not into rigid stuff. I'm not like you need to eat at noon, otherwise, the world explode. It's more so to, again, just making sure we don't go forget to eat. I know it sounds silly and you're like, "Well, I'll never forget to eat." Actually, yes, most people do forget to eat, and they go through like long times before having a snack or a meal, and then they realize they're low on energy, they're not feeling good, they have symptoms, and that's what we really want to avoid. So kind of like being proactive versus reactive. When you feel like crap, now you're like, oh my god, like I need to eat something, anything will do. Being proactive, having a snack with you, making sure you eat whenever you can. And again, that's why I'm saying it doesn't have to be rigid and like you need to eat breakfast in the 15 minutes you wake up. That doesn't apply to all of us, but making sure that what you find works for you can be consistent so that you have a structure in place. And also that's kind of like helping you can your partner, other caregivers, other like people of importance in your life to kind of follow that. Baby's gonna come, that's gonna be like out the window, but at least you'll have kind of that like routine of like, oh yeah, I need to eat sometimes. I cannot go on and just focus on baby and never nourish myself. So kind of also helping you get into the habit a little bit. Obviously we'll be flexible, and that's why don't be too rigid. That's not where your energy should go. Just making sure that it's somehow consistent.
I love that. I love that you're promoting a feeding routine versus a feeding schedule when you're pregnant, especially when sometimes we want to eat more often some
Yeah,
days and some days not as much. So that's great that it's more about being consistent throughout your eating as opposed to being rigid about it. That's great.
exactly. Yeah.
Great tip. All right. And number three.
What will be my number three? Okay, my number three is very practical, but do get yourself a supplement. I won't go into the details or recommending brand. I'm not sponsored by any brand or anything like that, but I think it is important, and start as early as you can. If you plan on becoming pregnant or you're trying or thinking, do get yourself a prenatal. Continue during pregnancy, even after and postpartum. I think it's really important, covers your needs, provide some key nutrients to baby. I'm thinking folic acid, I'm thinking choline, I'm thinking vitamin D, calcium. So again, just making sure that you have that. And again, if you need help to figure on which one is the best for you, or if you have any concerns, you're vegan, vegetarian, anything like that, definitely get in touch. But I think that's really important. And I think most of us might know or were reminded by the doctor in passing, but it can actually be really important, and kind of like one of your best tool in your toolkit during pregnancy. So that would be my third tip.
Awesome. Well, I know we've just scratched the surface when it comes
I
to
know.
nutrition during pregnancy, and hence why I really believe it takes a village when you're expecting or when you have a new baby or even older children. And I'm honored that you're part of my village. And I really encourage everyone watching and listening to make sure that they're reaching out to you and all the experts that we have through our videos and podcasts. So I'm excited. So I want to ask you a personal question, because a lot of the parents that I work with, they say the same phrase: I wish I knew then.
Yeah.
What was your I wish I knew then? What do you
Oh,
wish you knew then that you learned now?
um, I wish I knew that actually pregnancy and starting a family, and that doesn't even need to be true pregnancy, just starting a family is really humbling, and you won't control a lot of things, and it's okay. I think, pregnancy was like, well, you need this list and this and this and then plan this, and like, and yes, obviously that was reassuring at the time, but also I wish someone would have told me, and all these great plans, they might never go the way you had planned them, but that's okay. You're going to figure it out. You're going to learn. Get yourself a village. I think that resonate, the experts and the kind of like kind, reassuring presence that will guide you. But that's it. You just don't know the path ahead. It's going to be magical though. So,
Good. Great
yeah,
advice. I think that's something we all could do better with for sure.
yeah,
So thank you so much for sharing that. Before we wrap up, tell us a little bit about where they can find you. So for any parents new expecting out there that want to speak with you or work with
yeah.
you or find out how a little bit more, where can they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm happy to connect. That's the best part of our job, right? To really help parents and make a difference and making their life easier. So my private practice is called Family and Co Nutrition. You can find us online, www.familyandconutrition.com. We have a blog on pregnancy, postpartum, and then early years of your child, everything nutrition. as we said, for mothers and fathers. So really we're trying to, talk to everyone in your family. That's of importance. We're also on Instagram at picky.eating.kids. So obviously we're targeting a bit the older age, but you're never too early to prevent it. So join us, please come say hi. That's really why we do this, to really help you out. So loving to connect.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being here. Such a great experience always talking with you. And we've got lots of different chats happening as well on our podcast and videos. So for those of you tuning in, we will have all those details of how to reach her in the show notes as well. And thank you everyone for joining. And thank you so much for coming on today. I appreciate having you.
Thank you, Debbie.